Welcome back to the Ragnarok server series. In this video, we will be going through how to get our client's English translation set up and go through the client XML file to allow it to access the server to connect. Let's start by loading the Ragnarok client we downloaded. As stated before, we are going to maintain our version of 2022-0406 as renewal for the examples moving forward. I'll drag mine into the window. You'll notice it has been updated with the patch name after everything loaded successfully. We'll continue by selecting recommendations. Near the top, we have a search that we can type LUB into. This will populate all the LUB files that we need to translate to English. First, we need to understand which ones we will be using. To know what files we are implementing, we need to sort out what ones we need. Let's make an empty folder somewhere close, and we'll copy the files from the English translation package over to it. We'll take the entire renewal folder and copy the contents over. Next, we are going to need the compatibility package for our version, should one exist. Copy that over, and if you're following this version, you will also copy the 2021-1028 compatibility files as well. There are other packages and tools here for use. Feel free to browse and play around with some of the things to get a stronger understanding of them. Now we've got our system files and GRF files ready to pack. Before we can pack them, we need to be sure the executable is going to read them. Let's navigate back to Warp, where we'll finish working on this LUB list. Enter each file you want translated into this list by copying the name exactly as is and pasting it inside this window. Make sure to follow the exact file naming structure. If the example doesn't have an LUA or an LUB ending, don't add it. This will work for now. Once each one is selected, we can save the profile for future use. This can help when we need to update the client and we don't want to go through this whole process again. I've also attached a profile you can load in the description below. I'm just going to add an icon for this example. Once finished and the files are generated, you'll notice there are 3 different files, 2 security files and 1 executable. Today we will only be working with the executable. You can rename the executable to anything you want once it's been generated. Right now we're ready to make or edit our first GRF file. Open GRF editor and start with an empty GRF file. It'll have the default structure for the data to be seen by the game. Let's maintain that structure. Since we've already separated the translations we need to use into a separate folder, we can simply drag and drop them into the root of the GRF. Make sure it's not being dragged into the data folder. The very first folder should be data, and then it branches into everything else. Save the GRF as a new GRF file. We're ready to copy the executable and the GRF into the Ragnarok client folder now. Don't forget to copy over those translation files too, or you'll run into many errors. We'll edit the data.ini file in the Ragnarok folder. This can be edited with any text editor. We'll ensure the custom GRF we just made is at the top as number 1 or number 0 followed in sequence. Put your custom changes ahead of the line to read in priority. We can save it, and it's time to run the game. It looks like we have launched successfully, with an error of course, but we have launched successfully nonetheless. Now we are presented with this local entrance window. This is not our server of course. We need to now modify the client info XML and pack it back into the GRF. This step is quite simple. We'll extract the client info XML and edit it with a text editor. Inside the file, we can change a few things to start. We'll change the description and the server name to reflect our server. And the address needs to be the domain name or the IPv4 address of the server. In this example, we are using a domain name. Once we launch again, we can now see the details have reflected. And everything looks good so far. Loading looks good. I'll create a pin. And now we're in. Looking groovy. So today we managed to get a successful launch of Ragnarok Online and connect it to our server. That's a great step forward. We've officially done it. We have an online server. Well done. Moving back to that error we have, I moved to the add-ons and custom Lua support, and that removed one of them. Make sure you double check the packages and ensure you get the necessary ones. Be sure to keep up to date with Chris's English translation package on GitHub. We'll see you in the next video.